In a world full of movie podcasts, here is one more. Welcome to Defend Your Movie with Sean Donnelly.
The time has come again. The champion must stand. It can only be one of us. Victorious. So stand up in that, my friend. There's a title you must defend. Shut it on, bring it to me. Defend your movie.
Hey there, folks. This is Sean Donnelly. You're listening to another episode of Defend Your Movie. I am here with my co-host, Farrah Brooke. Say hello, Farrah.
Hello.
Farrah, you missed the Farrah part.
What?
Say hello, Farrah, I said.
Sean, you're a bully.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. We have a very special guest, a hilarious dude, a writer. Also, you know him from his podcast, The David Feldman Show, that I am a fan of. Ladies and gentlemen, David Feldman. How are you, buddy?
Well, thank you. I don't want to turn this into a suck fest, but we've done one live show.
Yes.
And you made it magnificent.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I believe when I moved back to New York, you were the first podcast to have me on.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Wasn't this one. It was me and Dan St. Germain had a podcast called My Dumb Friends, and you came in. And also to continue the Suckfest, it was you and Bonnie McFarlane,
Yep.
and hands down, that was one of the top 3 funniest episodes we had. Because
And your old producer.
with Tom Lewis, yeah. It was the producer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that, as far as punchlines go, like having you and Bonnie on was literally, it was like a carefully crafted comedy set. Like every 10 seconds they were putting out like jokes. It was hilarious. It was
I don't
really
know how
hilarious.
Bonnie got Rich Voss. It just makes no sense to me how she was able to land.
You couldn't believe it, huh?
Yeah. I said,
Yeah.
Really? Rich Voss is going to go out with Bonnie? Jesus.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Well,
and
thank
like
you
I
for having
said,
me.
I'm a big fan of your podcast. Because I think we share a lot of the same views politically, and also I love it. I'll listen to it when I'm going to sleep, which most people do.
Yes.
I love it, and but it's funny because it's very long. We were just talking about this. You do 5 hours. You put a lot of work into your podcast. Like you said, you're taping 10 hours a week of content. That's huge. Yeah. But at times I'll fall asleep and I'll wake up to the same episode. So I'm like, I'll wake up to David's voice in my ear.
Hi, honey. Hi, can I make you coffee?
So it's
You
always
still
so fun
like
to me. I'm still here. But just to continue the kissing of the
one
ass.
of the things we found. Alex Brazel, who is the czar of our show.
Yes, the proprietor of Showbiz Studios that houses both of our podcasts.
It turns out that I am not good in short doses. That the longer you listen to me, the more enjoyable it is. In short doses, you just don't like me. But we found that the shows are more. What's happened is we found an audience of people who are on long trips, insomniacs, people who are glass blowers, people who are restoring art, people who
are working and having it in the background while they're working.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That's great.
And
they'll contact you and they tell you how, like, thank you because it gets me through my...
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's so cool.
So it's kind of more like broadcasting than podcasting. You're kind of a podcast that's short, you really have to make an impact.
Yeah.
But if it's long, it has a different pace.
Absolutely. And that's why I like the vibe of the show so much, because it's almost set up like a talk radio show from like kind of back in the day. The music's like that. Your voice is very much sounds like that, and the topics you're talking about are political, and it's a news related podcast, so it has that vibe to it, like a quality radio show. Like, and I was a big. I think we just talked about this a couple minutes ago. Radio is dying; it's dead. I think most people would say it. You know,
it's not coming back.
It's not coming back. So that's where you're finding these things now. And I was a big radio guy. I would put on news radio. I was a big Stern guy. Then I was an Opie and Anthony person. And then I was Ron and Fez and all that. So like I could just listen for hours and hours and hours. So it has that vibe to it.
Right. One of the things, when I was a kid, I used to listen to late night radio from like 11 till 4 in the morning. And there were these call-in shows where people...
Well, they didn't have
That's
TV yet.
what
so
I
you had-
love. That's what I follow.
They didn't even have radio.
It's like a Morse
I
code.
like, I feel like I'm going to enjoy this podcast a lot because I like to fall asleep listening to stuff, get up,
Yeah.
hear it.
It's great.
And I like call-ins.
Yeah, well, the way I here's how I think the show's evolved. I don't like call-in shows where just strangers call in and mouth off, and then the host speaks and cuts them off. I think it's more interesting to have call-ins from my friends.
Right.
Yes, that's so fun.
So that's basically what the show is. It's people, comics on the road, who call me late at night, and we talk. We just...
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll have people in the studio as well as calling. So
Yeah.
It's great.
Thank
So
you. That
thank
means
you
a lot
so
to me.
much.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
That means a lot coming
Oh,
from
no
you.
sweat.
Not so much from Farrah. But it means a lot from-
So thank you for doing
I
the
actually
show.
didn't even hear it. I don't know. I'm just trying to... That's what I do. It would have been funnier. Most guys would make fun of Sean and
Yeah.
build you up, Farrah. But I just go for the...
I'm,
See, I like
this
the
is
reverse.
the tone of this podcast in general.
I think abject cruelty is the funniest. I want to do a roast battle with an 11-year-old and win.
And win.
And win. I'm trying to get somebody's son to let me go into a roast battle with their 11-year-old and kick his ass and humiliate him.
Can I traumatize your
Scar
son?
this kid emotionally. Like make it where it's like, hey kid, I'm gonna win and I'll be fine. But
Like,
you're gonna be
I
fucked
don't
up.
get why people don't want to play along with this. It's weird. No one said yes.
And you know what? The kid deserves it. How about that? How about we knock these kids off their pedestals a little bit?
Yeah,
These
maybe.
I'm
brats.
sure there are some kids that need that.
Absolutely.
And the parents would
Absolutely.
be happy.
Most
Yeah.
11-year-olds. Remember when you were 11? Like I was a pretty good kid compared to some of my friends. But like, yeah, especially now, you see how these 11-year-olds act. Yeah, take them down a peg.
Well, certainly the millennials, Farrah. I'm going to assume you're a millennial.
She's a millennial.
I am 45. Is that considered
Are you
a
really?
millennial?
No.
Oh.
She won't say her age on the show. She went from 18 to 17 to 45 to 23. She switches it up. But yeah, she's a millennial. I was just telling her how old I feel. And she's like, you're old in certain ways, but young in others. I'm almost 40, and I'm like, there's things that I just don't get. Like, there's things like, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I don't enjoy this. And then one of the things was, there's a phrase people say now where they say, oh, I was hanging out with the homie so-and-so, and they'll say the person's name. And I can't stand it. I think it's the corniest thing to me. It's super corny to me. And I don't mind other things, but I'm like, that annoyed me. And I tweeted about it, and then Farrah goes, the fact that you tweeted about it is why you're old. That's why you're old. The fact that you brought it up
Your
as a
Twitter
thing, that's
is
why you're
like
old.
a grandpa Twitter. It's like, I can't, these kids these days saying this and that.
I'm Paul Lind and Bye Bye Birdies. That's a very old.
Kids.
That's a very old.
What's the matter with you? I'm doing Gilbert doing Paul and kids. What's the matter with you?
Did you see that Gilbert? They're doing a documentary about Gilbert, or there is a documentary
Yeah.
that's coming out. I saw that. Were you in that?
They film me.
Oh yeah, you're not sure if I made it or not.
You know what I do to stay out of documentaries? When I look right at the camera. So, like, there was I'm not taking credit for Eddie Pepitone, but I was early on in Eddie's career. I was
Writing with him, or
working with him.
Yeah,
He was always doing my radio show and my podcast, and there was a camera crew around. The Bitter Buddha is this great documentary
Right,
about
yeah.
Eddie. And whenever the camera crew would come in, I would look right into the camera and talk to Eddie. And they would ask me not to because they wanted cinema verite. They wanted
They
it
wanted
real.
a scene. Yeah.
But I just thought it'd be really funny if there was this asshole who kept looking at the
Yes.
camera because he wanted a full-on shot. A close-up.
shell-shocked, yeah.
So I did that with Eddie. Didn't end up in the documentary. And then I go, God damn it! They film in my studio. They can't even. And I was in a car with Gilbert, and they were filming, and I just kept talking to Gilbert while looking into the camera. And sure enough, I didn't.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, so today you've come to defend, quote
Absolutely.
unquote, I think this will be a very controversial pick because nobody likes this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And people love mafia movies. You're going to defend it. Let me ask you this. You're going to defend it as the best one? Or you're just going to defend that it's a good movie?
Well,
The movie I'm talking about is Godfather 3. So people already know because it's the title of the podcast, the episode. You can't defend it as the best one, I don't think.
I think I'm going to defend it the way I would defend the Korean War. We went in with good intentions. And
So the Godfather 3 is the Korean War. That's what you're saying.
yeah, it's the Korean War, and unlike the Korean War, Francis Ford Coppola knew to stop.
Well, he knew to. Well, right.
Stop. There wasn't a Godfather 4.
But here's the thing. You can start the argument right away by saying any intentions are poor intentions because there shouldn't have been a Godfather 3.
Well, actually, I maintain that it's actually Godfather 4.
Why? That there's a missing Godfather 3. You ever hear this? That they were going to do Spaceballs 3. They were going to do a sequel to Spaceballs 3, The Search for Spaceballs 2.
That's great.
That's great, right? Yeah.
But if you look at Godfather 2, there's a foreign film with Robert De Niro.
I see what you're saying.
Where
Okay.
The early years of Don Corleone.
So that could almost be 2.
That would be, well, it could be 1. That's really 1. In fact, when they do the...
Well, they do that.
Yeah.
They do the chronology, whatever you want to call it. They now Farrah doesn't know. The Godfathers are like these epic masterpieces. You haven't seen any of the Godfathers, have you?
Absolutely not.
Are you serious?
Absolutely not.
That's what you're.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she has not watched. If you want to talk about Moana,
Classic
the Disney movie
movies.
Moana, she knows everything about Moana. She does not know
Moana
anything else.
is a triumph.
You have to watch The Godfather. The Godfathers, actually, we should do that as episodes 1 and 2. We'll do it as bonus episodes because they are unbelievable movies. And they were movies that when they came out, another thing, they never had anything that was like them ever that came out before.
Is
them.
this similar to Goodfellas, which I
Like-
watched for this podcast?
It's like Gone with the Wind, but with the mafia. Not similar to Goodfellas. More epic and more beautifully done, and more. It was a family drama. Goodfellas. The reason why it was so great is because it took the same world of the Godfather and made it grittier, and it was from a different time period. This. The Godfather was from a more elegant time period. It was shot differently than Goodfellas.
I've seen, little parts here and there because my dad would just watch these movies all the time.
Well, when you see them
on repeat.
Well, guys, when we see them, we know them by heart, so you can catch it at any point during it.
Right.
So when it's on TV, that's a movie. It's on TV. I put it on. It stays on. And then it doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes left or whatever it is. It just stays on, and one or two, not 3, to pertain to the podcast.
I will criticize The Godfather 1 and 2, and I'll tell you why The Godfather 3 is structurally better.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead.
This is a real defense.
Yeah, it is. I knew he would do it.
Okay, so nobody has seen The Godfather more than I have.
Okay.
I promise you that.
You've seen it like an insane amount of times.
I actually said to Eleanor Coppola...
The first one you're speaking of.
1 and 2.
1 and 2.
I met Eleanor Coppola. And
Really?
She has no sense of humor. And this is God's honest truth. I said to her, I was on a radio show with her in San Francisco. She was promoting a documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now. And I turned to her and I said...
she did... That's hard. That's Hearts of Darkness.
Yeah.
She directed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said to her, I got to be honest with you, The Godfather does not hold up after the 600th viewing. And she goes, I think it does. And I go, you know what? You're humorless.
Yeah. Aren't you a person? How are you an artist? What are you doing?
But here's the problem with Godfather 1.
Really?
Here's the problem with Godfathers 1 and 2. The structure, the story, is impossible to follow, and there's a reason for that. It was made after the book was the biggest selling book in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
Everybody read The Godfather when the movie came out. So there's a shorthand to the movie making because it assumes that everybody's read the book.
Oh, see, I didn't know that because when it came out, I think it came out in 71 or 73,
yeah.
whatever. I was born in 78, so I saw the movies when I was older, but when I grew up, whatever it was.
You didn't read the book.
I didn't read the book.
So there's no way you can watch Godfather 1 or 2, that's a whole other issue, and understand the story the first time you see it. That story is very complicated, and it turns on the raise of an eyebrow.
I think you're right. I think when I'm trying to think back of my first watch of it and what I thought, and I think the vibe you get is that you jump into the story because it starts off at Talia Shire's wedding, at the daughter's wedding, at Connie, right?
Yeah.
Connie, and it just puts you into it. So it jumps you into this family life right away. I didn't think of it as like, oh my God, I'm missing all this backstory. I think the first time I saw it, I'm like, I'm gonna get context as this moves forward, and you do. But I see what you're saying. You don't
know.
Completely.
It's impossible to figure out why exactly Barzini and Sollozzo see a weakness in Don Corleone. There's a lot of stuff that you have to watch over and over to get. Godfather II is impossible to decide. It is. But
it jumps around. So basically what we're talking about, so Farrah knows, is Godfather 1.
For example, when it was you, Fredo.
Yeah.
That scene with Superman where he said...
Well, that's where it happens.
Where he sees that he was there with Johnny Ola before.
He goes, Johnny Olaf, he would never come to these places. Oh, no, he goes, Old Man Roth, he'd never come to these places. Johnny Olaf, he knows these places in the back of his hand.
Right.
And that implied to Michael Corleone that Fredo knew the guys that tried to kill him.
Right, but that doesn't mean that he knew that they were going to kill Michael.
Well, you find that out later on.
But it's implicit that it just didn't. It's a little too Chinatown-y in that it's so down to the bone that you have to fill in the blanks, and I'm not so sure.
Well, I think in that particular scene, not to get too nitpicky, but I think that his react. Okay, so what happens is there's a clue that. Basically, his brother Fredo, who's not the brightest one of the group, but he's the oldest. He's the oldest brother, but he had polio as a kid, and he had a little bit of brain damage or something. You're supposed to, they imply that he wasn't as smart as the others. They send him to Vegas.
I just figure he's Italian.
Yeah.
Alex?
Alex?
He's not listening to us.
Italian.
So basically, my point, there's a part where Michael Corleone, there's an attempt on his life, and he's trying to figure out who that he knows who betrayed him and told these guys where he was going to be, and that he could, or set it up so that he could almost get killed. And he doesn't know. And there's a scene where they're in Cuba. This is in the second one, and Fredo lets it go that he pretended like he didn't know these two guys, Hyman Roth and this guy Johnny Olaf. He pretends like he doesn't know them. But then later on, he says something that he's very familiar with them. He gives the line of dialogue proves that he knows exactly who they are and he's hung out with them. Now, my point would be to Michael Corleone, even if Fredo didn't say, "Oh, I knew you guys were going to kill," which I don't think he does because they call him after that scene. They call him and they say, "Hey, we need more info," whatever it is. It doesn't matter to Michael Corleone because he's slowly going mad anyway. So I think you can make the argument that at that point, yeah, that turns on a hair. You're right, that's on a dime. But if you're Michael Corleone, it's like, oh, well, he's the one. And he was the one. I think he also knows his stupidity is what left the attempt to my life. So in Michael Corleone's fucked up brain, he's thinking, well, it doesn't matter if he was in on it or not.
I've seen Godfather 2 a million times.
Yeah.
Explain to me, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, this is great.
What did Hyman Roth and Johnny Ola try to kill Michael?
They tried to kill Michael.
In his home.
They wanted Michael out of the way.
So for the casino in Cuba? They were making a deal.
I think it was supposed to be, that he was wavering on the deal in Cuba. But was that later? I didn't rewatch Godfather 2, so it's like, you're right. That speaks to your point about the books.
But that's not even in the book. I mean, Godfather 2.
Well, here also, you know what? I know what it is. Michael Corleone makes a line about that. He goes, Hyman Roth thinks he's going to live forever. I think it's a power-threatening thing. I think he thinks that Michael thinks he's going to take over all Hyman Roth's businesses when he dies or when he gets too sick. But Hyman Roth thinks he's never going to die. But
Hyman Roth divides it. He has the birthday cake and everything gets divided up.
I think the implication with Michael Corleone's line is that's all for show and he thinks he's going to be around forever. Because he says the words, he thinks he's going to live forever.
But Hyman Roth was Meyer Lansky.
Right.
And the whole way that Hyman Roth worked was he stayed in the back and let the Italians do all the make all the money, and he made a little money. He always made money for his partners. That's his whole thing. He's not Don Corleone. He's kind of.
But I think by the time that he's the age he is in the movies, it's implied he's gained more power. He's gained more. He's not getting his 10% finder's fee anymore. He has control of, because when he's divvying up stuff, he's divvying up like big parts of his business.
But he wants Michael to be a part of that business. He wants that money in the suitcase.
Public eye and to other people. But then what they're saying in the movie is, no, he has no intention of this guy taking over any of his businesses. I think that was the implication. I can't remember exactly, and you're right. It is a little bit muddy and it's a little bit murky, but I think the implication is like, that's all. Him at the birthday party is all bullshit. And there's a line where Michael Corleone says to his bodyguard or somebody, he's like, or to Fredo or somebody says he thinks he's going to live forever, and that that's why he and they don't know. He doesn't know that what you call it. He doesn't know at that point that he tried to have him killed, and he finds out later.
Oh, he's trying to find out.
He's trying to find out.
He's going down to Cuba to figure out whether or not to give the money to Hyman Roth to invest.
In a casino down in Cuba, right.
And to figure out who could try to kill him.
Right. And then when you find out they were involved in it, who was Johnny Olaf, who was basically doing Hyman Roth's bidding, and it's Hyman Roth, I think it's
why, what does it matter? Why would you assume that because Fredo hung out with Johnny Ola, Johnny Ola was behind the shooting?
Why would you assume?
So Johnny Ola.
Well, there's a scene where they introduce Johnny Olaf to Fredo, and he goes, nah, we never met before, nah, and he pretends like they don't know each other. They both pretend like they don't know each other.
Oh, that's true.
Right. And then later on, he says the line about Johnny Olaf knows these places. Old man Roth would never come here.
But Johnny Ola came to the...
I think when he's doing deduction. I think it's deduction. I think what happens is Michael Corleone is going, why else would he lie to me about knowing Hyman Roth?
Well,
and also, I think he already had his suspicion that Roth... He already knew what the game Roth was playing. He was trying to consolidate power, I think. I think that's what it
Well, I agree with you
to.
that what you've said, and that's kind of interesting because nobody's ever said that to me before, that in Godfather II, Michael Corleone is going mad.
Absolutely.
Which I love. I've never heard that.
Oh, yeah.
But so that explains, then that washes over, that explains a lot of inconsistencies and things that I don't understand. He's just crazy, and so what he sees may not be accurate.
Right.
But to me, the problem I've always had with Godfather II is Johnny Ola comes to Anthony's confirmation in Lake Tahoe.
Yes.
He shows up there.
Yes.
And then there's
Johnny Ola does? Yes, he does. Yes.
And there's an attempt on Michael's life.
In the bedroom. The windows are left open,
right.
And he realizes it, and then he goes down. There's a crazy scene where they get fired at through the window, and there's these hitmen on the property.
So your explanation that Michael's mad, Michael Corleone is insane, and seeing things that don't exist makes sense to me. I never got the connection that just because Fredo knew Johnny Ola, that linked Hyman Roth and Johnny Ola and Fredo to the assassination attempt on Michael. I don't see that.
I think Michael already had his assumptions. I think the fact that he pretended like he didn't know them and he knew them, I think he knew something was up. I think, like I'm saying, at that point, it doesn't matter because very shortly thereafter, they're in Cuba. He gives him the kiss of death, and he goes, I know it was you. You broke my heart. And then Fredo takes off, and they're trying to get Fredo. And
well, your explanation makes sense. He's crazy.
He's crazy.
Because when he says, I know.
So spoiler alert, he kills him at the end of the movie.
Right, but
or has him killed.
But that's, but to me, I always see Michael as this rational, sane, calculating
Not at
Don.
that point, yeah.
And I don't see how he... So let me just... This is important to me because The Godfather 2 is something I live by. I never understood...
Just like Farrah. She hasn't seen it, but she lives by it.
I never understood why Michael Corleone was able to make all these connections because I can't make those connections. But if he's insane, then it makes sense.
I think he's insane, but I think it's also... I think there's multiple things going on there. I think he's insane. I think it's instinct. I think he had his assumptions. And I think it's movie making, like you said. I think they're just making the connections because you can't have the movie be 8 hours long. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, if they're showing you that very slight, understated scene so that you go, okay, Fredo betrayed his brother because he's lying right now.
Yeah, it's one of my problems with all filmmaking because it makes the audience sometimes feel stupid.
Whether you're making these assumptions and you're jump cutting to different.
Yeah,
things.
you're saying when I watch a movie, I like to be able to understand the plot, and if I can't figure out the plot, my mind wanders. I'm trying to figure it. And a lot of these movies, these very lean, like Chinatown, which is a masterpiece. But you have to watch Chinatown 20 times to get all that. And that's fine. But, there are movies that I watch where I go, what the hell was I watching? Am I stupid? No, we figure there's a limited audience for this movie, so we just want you to watch it 15 times to make up the money.
And you know what? It really does depend on what kind of movies you're watching. Because, like Godfather, they probably assume they're pretty straightforward. But there's other things that you watch that there's symbolism involved. There's subtext. There's abstract movies. Like there's weird. Like there's a movie that's out right now. That one Mother exclamation point that has Jennifer Lawrence in it.
Talk about that.
It's Darren Aronofsky who did Pi and he did Requiem for a Dream, and he's known for making these like messed up movies. And I read some about it. I don't think I'm going to see it because it's pretty much like a horror movie, right? It's like a thriller.
Bad. Like people have been saying bad things.
It's split down the middle. Some people love it. Basically, from what I've heard, there's a lot of symbolism in this movie. It's a weird. Basically, we would watch it. I'd be the same way, and I'd be like, "What the hell just happened?" I think I'd be that guy.
Right.
To be like, "What the hell just happened?" Because there's all these nonsensical, non sequitur things that happen that are kind of there's gross stuff that happens. There's weird characters that get introduced into the movie, and he was going for it was very the plot itself, everything was very symbolic, I think. And I read about it, and I don't want to say it just in case it's a spoiler of what it's being a symbol of, but I read about what the symbol was, and it makes sense to me, but I didn't see the movie yet. But from what I've heard, it's like it's a divider. Like, people hate it or they love it,
right.
And they're freaking out about it online. So, like, what did I just see? Or they're like, I love what I just saw.
Like Inception.
Inception was like that, but Inception was very confusing, and I loved Inception because I liked... That was... Same kind of thing where it was like hard to follow. Yeah. You saw Inception. You did. And what did you think of Inception?
I loved it.
You loved it, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
What did you think of Inception? Hated it?
I loved it, but I'm not going to go back and watch this again.
Yeah, I
to figure this
wouldn't. I didn't see it again.
Yeah, I didn't see it again either. I watched it once.
But I had fun.
The Americans, for example. I know it's great.
TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
I started watching it, and then my mind wandered, and I lost some kind of... And I go, now I got to rewatch this over and over again. I don't have time.
Yeah. I think that's what it comes down to. What it comes down to is what the point of the movie is trying to do to you. Is it's trying to evoke a reaction out of you. But I think conveying plot and if it's an involved story is really hard sometimes. Like, you're right. It's weird with movies where you have to make a lot of assumptions. Because that also, it comes up on the podcast a lot. Because you'll bring up an action a character does, and you're like, why'd they do that again? And you're like, oh, right, because and you're just making, he knew he was mad at him while he did this. So you're right. And The Godfather is prime for this because it's already a really long movie, and it's based on these really long books, and they're really involved stories. And you're right, they have literally one scene here, one scene there, where the whole plot of the movie switches.
And as a Bernie socialist, I mean this. I get really angry when I'm sitting around with people in a movie theater or at work where people work off a faulty premise and nobody has the courage to say, whoa, how did this happen?
Yeah. Oh, you're like fact-checking the conversation.
I can't tell you the number of meetings I've been in where there's just like a gaping hole that's sitting there.
Yeah.
That nobody wants to say, wait a second, this is wrong.
Yeah, it's like elephant in the room, ignoring obvious.
And that's what I think that's a problem with a lot of movies. I think it's a problem with our country. There are a lot of obvious things that we just ignore.
Sure, I absolutely believe that.
Like Medicare for all, get rid of the guns.
Yeah.
And
but when it comes to movies,
outlaw face sitting videos. Somebody told me in England there was a movement to outlaw face sitting videos.
Did you see? Not that we're going off on a little bit of a tangent, but have you seen the Tickled documentary?
No.
Oh my God!
You keep telling me about this.
It's not about. It's about. It starts off about competitive tickling. These people that were commissioning these videos.
This is my
about
nightmare.
it's on Hulu. Competitive tickling, right? But if you watch it, it takes this crazy journey. Watch it. It's really messed up.
Competitive tickling.
Well,
I
that's what
heard
starts
it's
off, and then they
disturbing.
find out the source of the videos, which leads into another mystery, to another mystery, to another mystery, and ends up really messed up. It's disturbing, but the whole movie is not about competitive tickling. It's why do these videos exist? Why were they online? And then you find
That's
out.
Oh,
fine.
I can figure it out.
What is it?
Well, it's got to be kids.
No.
No, I'm just saying it's got to be kids. Otherwise,
It's the 11-year-old you roasted.
I would figure that it's tickling little kids.
No, not kids. No, that would be definitely outlawed. That's called pedophilia, David. No, it's adults tickling adults. It's adult males tickling adult males. But it was like they made it like it was a competition and you could win. And they videotaped it and they put it online. And just to give you the beginning of the story, it was like the guys who would want the video taken off, or the guys that would try to get it taken down from the internet, were getting like letters in the mail about how we'll ruin your lives. We're going to send these videos to your employer, all these people, if you don't stop. If you don't stop right now. So watch it. It's really interesting. But I mean, like,
What's it
you just
called?
made me think of it because of the face sitting thing you said.
Tickle?
It's called Tickled. It's on Hulu or Netflix.
I do competitive tinkling. Middle-aged men standing in front of a urinal saying who can get a healthy stream.
And you only use the old Shea Stadium one that was just a round, just a trough. Just
With the ice.
Yeah, with the ice. Right. Now, did you ever go into an old bar and like they used to have such regal urinals. Now, they have like these urinals. They were porcelain. They looked like art sculptures. They were gigantic. Now urinals are just whatever.
Right.
But it was always these gigantic urinals that were like took up way too much space, and they always had ice right in the center of it.
To me, the problem isn't men using women's rooms or women using men's rooms or people who are transitioning
Right.
using the
Yeah, who
right
cares?
bathroom.
Yeah.
The problem is bathrooms. We have to fix
See,
bathrooms.
I think the problem is men's bathrooms. I work in an office. They have to have a cleaning person come in midday just to clean the men's bathroom.
Well, that's your office. And also, there's a lot of dudes in
I'm
your
just
office.
saying, I think dudes' bathrooms are a whole different story.
Here's the thing. One of the last day jobs I had, the office that we had, the signs would be put up only about the women's bathroom.
Wow.
They would talk about sign. They put up to each other and be like, "Girls, we have to stop."
Flushing our babies down the toilet.
All right, so let's get back to this.
Hang on for one
Oh,
second.
yeah, Godfather 3.
Godfather
My
3.
girlfriend made me pee sitting down.
And what'd you think?
Respect.
I got even with her. She didn't tell me to tuck. So I just sprayed. I would just spray all over the shower.
You wanted a step-by-step direction. On how
Yeah,
to pee.
I sat.
Wait, was this middle of the night, or was this
I
randomly?
just figured nobody's going to tell David Feldman how to
sit
pee.
down.
I'll stand or sit. Okay, I'll sit.
Men's pee rights. That's what you
Yeah,
wanted.
yeah. So her shower curtain is just covered in pee. Don't tell me, unless you have a penis, don't tell
me how to
me
pee.
how to pee. I've been peeing by myself for 5 years already.
So let's go back, because the original argument started. You said structurally, Godfather 3 is better than 1 and 2.
Right.
But are you? Here's
But
the
we haven't
thing.
heard about why.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Why do you say, using Godfather 3? Why are you saying that? Because you could make the argument it's because less is going on. That's why. It's
Well, I think Godfather 3
a more direct storyline than the other
it's
ones.
a direct storyline. It's about.
It's also not based on a book, or is it based on a book? Is there a book?
It's not based on a book, but it's based on a true story. The Pope who was murdered by the bankers before JP2. There was
right.
a Pope that died mysteriously. There was a Vatican bank. There is a Vatican bank whose practices are questionable. So it covers that. It's
it gets very very grand, like more global than the
Yeah.
other ones. The other ones, that's why I think it didn't click with people, because they wanted. It wasn't mafia to people. It wasn't the original. What the originals were like.
If you look at Donald Trump, and if you read David K. Johnson's book about Donald Trump, you know that Donald Trump is a mobster. He's a mobster.
Well, that I believe.
Yeah.
He's a slumlord mobster that's in friends. They say now, there was an article the other day about Donald Trump saying that he's only comfortable in the Oval Office when he's talking to people from New York. So that's why he made that deal with Schumer and Pelosi, because Schumer acts like a New Yorker. So he can talk to him and they can be more direct with each other. And that's why they not befriended, but they made it easier for him to turn around and make that DACA deal or whatever it was, or quasi commit to it. Right?
So there's this myth in America that Rudy Giuliani and the Justice Department under Reagan destroyed the five families.
Was it Rudy
mafia.
Giuliani? I thought it was Robert Kennedy that started it. That he was going after the
But
mafia
in the
and
80s,
CIA at first.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
it became kind of settled law that
Well, he did RICO. Didn't he start RICO?
Yeah, the Italian mafia is done. It's done. It's done. It's
That's when
done.
it started, yeah.
And we accept now that there's no Italian mafia anymore. And what I say is the mafia didn't go away. It's in the Oval Office. And that's what Godfather III tells you.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
George Hamilton, to me, was underutilized in Godfather III. Because if you want to understand the mafia in the 21st century, think of George Hamilton. He was the consigliere for Michael.
Right.
Smooth, good-looking, tan.
Yeah, it wasn't like back with Robert Duvall. He was same kind of thing. He wasn't like
wasn't
mafioso.
Genco.
Yeah, exactly.
You know who Genco was?
Yeah, the oil company, the olive oil company.
Right, but that Genco, Alex and I were looking at old excerpts, this stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor. Genco was the original consigliere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a scene?
There's a scene. Genco was the consigliere before Tom Hagen. We always think Genco was the name of a company, like it's Genco, the company that
that's what
makes
I thought.
olive oil.
Yeah.
No, Genco was the consigliere for.
Oh.
There's a line when Sonny says to Tom Hagen, you know, Papa had Genco. Look at what I've got. I got you.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's Genco is, and there's a scene taken out. Genco dies the day of Connie's wedding. They all have to go visit Genco, but it ends up on the cutting room floor. It's on YouTube. Alex and I found it.
Oh, wow. Because I remember when they show it in chronological order, there's a scene where you first meet Hyman Roth, and he comes in with Clemenza or something. There's a scene where he comes back, and it's Hyman Roth starting his career, and it's back in the time of Robert De Niro as
Right.
Robert De Niro's Godfather, playing Vincent Corleone.
Right.
So they come into Genco and they get work, and it's Hyman Roth, and I think he comes in with Clemenza or comes in with somebody else. So that's your first introduction to Hyman Roth, because then Hyman Roth, what's his name, who plays him, who's the famous teacher. He brings up, he's like, me and your father, we ran the molasses trucks into whatever it was. But that's supposed to be their first meeting of them. That is not in the movies. It's only when they show it in order on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I love about Godfather 3 is you go from Genco, who was this old world Italian, unattractive, of the streets,
Yeah.
to Tom Hagen,
Who's a lawyer.
little smooth.
Irish Catholic or Irish whatever.
And then in 3, you have George Hamilton, tan and dapper in this three-piece suit. You know he went to Harvard Law, and he's got clean fingernails. That is the natural progression of things in America, that you're still a thug, you're still a mobster.
But you're thrown into the power structure.
You become part of the power structure. And when you think about it, that's who the Kennedys were. The Kennedys were mobsters.
Well, yeah, the Kennedys, Joe Kennedy ran during Prohibition, ran alcohol, did a bunch of stuff, didn't he?
But the children wore nice suits and went off to Harvard.
Yeah.
So the mafia exists. They're just now using the CIA, the Pentagon, to.
I'm just confused because when you say the mafia doesn't exist, or
well, people thought the Italian mafia was broken up back in the 80s. Yeah,
but
which
I
it
come
was
from Long
street level.
Island,
It was
where the Italian mafia definitely exists. Maybe it just doesn't exist in the way
not what it was,
like what the movies are about and stuff.
And not what it was when we were kids. they would. It was so much more prevalent in New York City than it was.
Right. I'm just like, do people say it doesn't exist?
No, he means it's You mean it's
Because
fractured?
it's like it definitely exists.
Well, there's this kind of myth that they broke up the Italian mafia and it's not that big anymore.
Well, I was reading
Right,
this thing about, you know what happened now? All the guys who went away in the 80s for all the RICO charges did their time. They're getting out, and they're just going back to doing the same stuff. So it's kind of had like a bit of a resurgence, I think. Or
here's the thing is they can't do what they used to do because it's become corporatized. You cannot shake down. In fact, in Sopranos they show this. You can't shake down a Sopranos. It used to be you'd walk into a local store and run a protection racket. Well, you can't get to the owner of the store anymore because
it's owned by a corporation.
It's a franchise. That's the first thing. Secondly, all cash now is suspect. Who uses cash?
Yeah.
Who pay? Everything is now credit cards.
Yeah.
So the only way you can be a mobster is to get into the corporate structure.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's why they show it in Sopranos, and they even showed it. They show in the Sopranos when they started getting to like boiler room type situations.
Yeah.
When they had them open up, they were trying to get into cell phones. They were trying to get
Webiscus.
Webiscus, yeah. So, yeah, they're putting their hands in other stuff that's not just them running numbers. Because they running numbers back in the day was a thing before my time even. And then they started the lottery. Like the state started running numbers basically.
Right.
That's
right.
The lottery is the mafia used a thing called running numbers. You know what that is?
No.
They had these numbers each week, and the people would bet on them, and then whatever came out, you would cash out. And that was before the lottery, right? Mm-hmm. And then now there's the lottery. So the state was literally like, "That's a pretty good idea,"
right?
And they just did what the mafia was doing, and they don't do that anymore. That's an antiquated thing, and people just play the lotto. And there's not as much there's not as much street level around. Still is mafia around, but it's not what it was. Like back when I was younger in Long Island, like. We were both from Long Island, and it was such a bigger presence. Like you knew, hey, so and so's father is in the mafia, and it was so much in your face. And now that's not the case anymore as much.
Well, it's a different type of mafia because the way the mafia, I think, works is you have street criminals who want the protection of a bigger organization.
Right.
So I'm a hold-up guy. I like to rob jewelry stores. I'd like to be part of this mafia family.
So they watch my back.
So they watch my back, and I can move up there, and I'll make more money, and you kick up, and you kick up.
Yeah.
And that's how corporate America works.
Absolutely. And also, the way that it is it's not... I think by going away is like there's not as much protection anymore. It's almost like how unions are, to be honest, because unions are also being fractured. Like they're losing more and more power. Like I was in a union. I was in the doorman union for like 2 years.
Really?
And, yeah. I was at 32 BJ. It's called. And,
32 what?
BJ.
32 BJ.
32 blowjobs. That's what we used to call. I know.
It's a powerful union. I know.
Yeah, it's very great blowjobs. And so anyway,
so you were a doorman.
I was a doorman.
Greatest
for
job in the
years.
world. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you live in a doorman building, and there's that thing where you can open the door yourself, but he's coming to open it.
Yeah.
You let him open it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Because it's like instead of you don't bump into each other, I guess. It's
what
like,
I'm saying is if the guy is coming to open the door for you, you should stop and let him open the door. It's not because that's his job.
That's his job, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And if he got up to go do it, then it's kind of rude.
It's insulting to say, no, I got it, right? You let the man open the door.
If he's
let him open
going
the door.
for it, then...
Yeah.
But if
the only
they're,
thing that would
over
happen
there and they have, whatever...
There was times I'd be by myself, and then if people were coming through, I was giving somebody back laundry or something, and I was like, hey, like you wouldn't even... There was no implication that they're going to stand by the door, obviously. Like,
right.
even the people who, like, would let you open the door for them. So I would just continue doing what I was doing, and they would open the door themselves or go there. And also, we had a revolving door, so it was dumb to even have doormen. You're mostly there, security reasons, laundry, little menial tasks, packages, stuff like that. So if I was in the middle of two different things, it wasn't... hold on, I gotta open the door for this person. That wasn't top priority.
See, this is the thing about, like, Princess Di, who I think is overrated. and you know, I'm not saying she was killed by the Queen, but she was out to destroy the firm. She was going to...
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. She was out to destroy Charles. And one of the complaints that she had against Charles was that she came into his bedroom when they were dating, and he held out a toothbrush, and his butler put toothpaste on his tooth. And Princess Di goes, can you believe that? He can't even put toothpaste on. And Prince Charles said to her, that's his job. That's his job, to put toothpaste on my toothbrush. You don't think, you honestly, you dumb bitch, excuse me, you honestly think Prince Charles can't put toothpaste on his toothbrush? He's creating jobs.
But now...
I'm serious.
No. I'll tell you why. Because we've all seen butlers. That's not their only job they do. Like Butler, I think that could just be left off his job, his task list for his job.
That's
pretty extreme. There's other rich people that I highly doubt they have people put the toothpaste. That's because he grew up that way.
He's the Prince of Wales. They have a staff.
Yeah.
And everybody's on...
Was this just the toothpaste guy?
Well, there's the toothpaste.
No, it's the guy. It's probably the nighttime guy that would, would he tuck him in too? You know what I'm saying?
If that's his job.
No. What it is this. He loved it. He was used to it because he was royalty, literally royalty. It comes from
it's not wrong.
It's not wrong because it's what was in place. But is it crazy? Yeah, it's crazy in general because even if it was somebody's job, toothpaste on a toothbrush. First off, that you're in their bathroom, in their bedroom.
Do for yourself.
You're fucking with me. That's
I'm just having fun. I love this.
Yourself.
Yeah. No, I'm happy.
You're in their bathroom.
First of all, I'm not fucking with you. And quite frankly, I think if we were in England, I would order your head chopped off. And also, you're Irish.
Yeah, so fuck them even more.
Yeah, that's what your problem is. You hate the Queen.
No, but what I'm saying is, think of it this way. Even though uber rich people that are American, he's doing it more for tradition than anything else. Because I wouldn't mind he put out your clothes for you. He did this. He cleaned up your closet. He cleaned up the house. He did butler type duties. But you're in your pajamas and there's a man in your bathroom that's literally squeezing the toothpaste. I just wouldn't want that personally. Because it'd be uncomfortable.
Because you can't imagine.
I can't imagine a world where that would happen.
But that doesn't mean so. And I'm saying Princess Di should have kept her mouth shut. You're marrying. Look, you get to be the Queen of England. He doesn't love you. You're 19. You have your own agency. You're a woman when you're 19. You knew you were marrying this jug-eared hemophiliac.
Was he a hemophiliac?
They all are.
Same bloodline. Same inbred bloodline.
You're getting to be the Queen of England, so he doesn't love you. No, you're getting married. You'll have a...
so you're mad at her for outing the ways of royalty and outing...
Yeah.
It's also like, even though she came out with that, I think here's the thing though, you're 19. That's young. You're going into this. You're going into this the same way that she's going into it, maybe not realizing the full scope of the situation, got into it and got out. And she's giving people a peek into what's going on. Well, hey, just so you know, is it too private to do that? But here's the thing, if he shouldn't have. If he's so proud of the fact that it's the guy's job, then why can't she say it? Because he can just say it's his job. I have no problem with him doing that.
Right.
But the fact that he probably had a problem with her, I'm sure the royal family had a problem, is because it exposes extreme decadence. That's extreme.
It
extreme.
Is not.
That is the upteenth level of decadence. Oh, absolutely.
You are going to burn in hell.
Irish hell.
It's creating jobs.
It's not.
But like Sean said, he has other roles to his job.
He has other roles to his job.
He would still have the job.
You know what?
Without the
First,
toothpaste.
it starts with we don't need anybody to squeeze my toothpaste. Next, it's I don't need anybody to pull up the toilet seat when I'm standing to take a leak. And next thing you know, there's nobody wiping my butt. It starts when the cutback starts.
The cutback. Well, no, here's not cutback. It's just literally. I would love to find out how many people in the same position or same amount of money or same position in life have that toothpaste thing. That sounds
Right, and
it doesn't
why would
sound
you
like
call
every
that out and not other things? I'm sure there are way more decadent things they do.
Hey,
than
when I
that.
come home when I walk into my apartment,
Yeah.
if I could walk in and I could sit down and pick up my Kindle and start reading, and there's somebody taking my shoes off and changing me and blowing me and feeding me, and I can just sit there kind of like either a baby or an old man in a nursing home. Why not?
Because you're not a baby or an old man in a nursing
But
home.
if I could just sit there and be attended to.
But here's the thing: it's like it's one of those things. Wouldn't you're able-bodied? Wouldn't part of those things just make you feel uncomfortable while they were going on?
No.
If somebody's taking off your shirt like you're a
Yeah.
4-year-old, you wouldn't
Yeah.
mind that.
So I could do what I like to do.
But wouldn't it be? But you're not going to be when you're changing. Nobody's reading a Kindle while they're changing.
Okay, I could watch the news while somebody's taking my shoes and socks off.
No, you become like I feel like that's a fetish somewhere.
weird.
You become like a
it's
grown
just like
toddler.
it's efficient.
It's
I'm
not
a busy,
that efficient
I'm a
because
busy
then there's
guy.
another person
busy
there.
guy.
They're
And I'm
doing
paying
it.
you.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we went on a crazy tangent here.
Seriously,
I would like
I
you to.
barely heard about why Godfather 3 is the
Well,
best
I
one.
came here under false pretenses. You told me I didn't know that you were an anti-royalist.
So here's the deal. Just let me know. I want to go back to the main.
I'm
talk
mad.
we're having. Now you're mad.
I'm
about
mad at you. I can't. I don't know. I just feel.
Oh, I'm not anti-royal. I'm anti.
I just feel deceived by you.
I'm anti being treated like a baby when I'm 40 years old.
I think there are certain things
if you're-
everybody should do for themselves.
I would love to have an
and that
assistant
is like
or-
taking your shoes off.
If you had an assistant that was helping, like, hey, all the stuff you have to do for tomorrow, I set it up for you. Hey, I have this. Hey, we set dinner up for you. All that? Yeah, sure. That's amazing. If you can afford that and you are that busy where it's like it helps.
And you are giving someone a
expedite
job.
things.
Let me
that
tell you
way,
something.
As an assistant.
Let me tell you something, you heathens. If I were Prince Charles, I wouldn't have a guy handing me the toothbrush. He'd be brushing my effing teeth for me. I'd just be smiling like that monkey with the selfie. That thing. And I would just, and he would effing brush my teeth in bed for me.
So upset.
All right, we have to go back to Godfather 3 before we end this. I need you to tell me as succinctly as you can why the structure of Godfather 3 is better than the first two.
Because it has a beginning, middle, and end. Spoiler alert: he dies.
He dies. Well, the things that I wanted to we got such a tangent. The thing I wanted to tell you about Godfather 3 is that, first off, the fact they did a 3, they didn't need to do a 3. They did not need to do a 3. Secondly, one of the worst acted scenes is in this movie.
Cuz
No, not even Cuz. Cuz is different. That same person, but his daughter's in this, and she's a great director. She's a great director, not a great actress. There's another scene in my life that I ran into that it's so bad it's funny, and this scene does the same thing. In The Happening, which you watch The Happening, M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, one of the worst movies you'll ever see. There's a weird scene where Mark Wahlberg, it's basically the wind, like the plants are making people go mad and kill themselves and kill other people. There's a part where they hole up in this like old woman's house, but she's just crazy, not from the plants, she's just crazy. And in the middle of the night, Mark Wahlberg's kind of like slinking around, he's trying to figure out what they're going to do. And then he finds the lady in the hallway and she goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, hello." And she goes, "You stole all my stuff." And Mark Wahlberg goes, "What? No." And the first time I saw it, I lost my mind laughing. And the whole movie is acted that way. It's just bad the whole way through.
Right.
This is a close second. There's a scene. Sofia Coppola's in it as
the gnocchi when they're making gnocchi.
no, when she's on the steps of the church and she gets shot.
Oh yes.
And when right before she dies, she goes, "Dad." and then she just falls and drops like a ton of potatoes, and
He starts screaming.
and he starts freaking out, and he does a great job. Well, you know, he's great. He's amazing. But another point about this movie I'm going to make to knock it is this is the start of the hoo-ah Al Pacino.
Yeah,
this is the same
right.
year as Dick Tracy Al
Right,
Pacino. Like
right.
the first two Godfathers, you got the cool, calm, and collected, awesome, like badass Michael
Right,
Corleone, like
right.
understated. Beautifully acted. This started the like, you know, this started that. So that's my point. Like I can't not get my
And
head
that
around that.
scene was stolen from the man who the Alfred Hitchcock Jimmy Stewart movie.
The North by Northwest or the
No,
Man Who Knew Too Much?
The Man Who Knew. Okay, Syrah, where
yeah.
they're going to shoot.
Oh, when the triggers. Oh, you mean
Yeah.
Manchurian Candidate?
No. Well, that too.
That's different.
They're going to shoot on a certain note, and I think that's the
they do
Hitchcock
that.
movie with Doris Day. And,
Yes, I think you're right. It's the Man Who Knew Too Much. I
Yeah.
think that's the one. So my point of it is like, maybe you're right about the structure, but I think because there's less stuff happening, but just the acting along. Also, Andy Garcia I think Andy Garcia, I think Andy Garcia had that career where everybody always wanted him to be
Yeah.
more badass than he was, and it never came to fruition.
Right.
And this was like, I think his chance to like turn it into something. And not that you don't like Andy Garcia, but you're never, like even the thing I heard about Ocean's 11 when he did that, I heard the relationship he has with the rest of the guys in the movie, not that he's the bad guy on Offset, but he same kind of relationship. Like it wasn't, they weren't buddying around and stuff, you know. Which I also feel bad about when you hear about stuff like that because you're like, oh, you wish everybody's just palling around. But also with him, like it almost delegitimized it to me having him in this movie. Like you go these heavy hitters. You got Robert Duvall in the first two. You got James Caan in the first one. You got Michael De Niro in the flashbacks. It's like, and then you have like Andy Garcia,
Bridget
Fonda, his
Fonda.
daughter, Bridget Fonda. You have Diane Keaton, and then you have George Hamilton, which was already becoming like the tan thing was a joke. I'm saying all these cartoonish things.
Who played Joey Zaza? I got a stone in my shoe.
I don't know. I can't remember who it is. Let me see.
Don't look it up.
I'm not going to look it up. But that's my point about the movie. So that's my. So what we're going to do, we'll wrap it up because we've been going for a while. Give me 3 reasons why you defended Godfather 3.
George Hamilton. I honestly thought George Hamilton explains where the mafia went.
So you like that aspect of it. You think it was almost like fortune telling. You think he
Yeah.
was telling what it was going to be as it goes on. Okay.
Right. It was the Sofia Coppola role explains why incest is wrong because Andy Garcia,
Right. They're cousins.
They're cousins.
Yeah.
So it's a great cautionary tale. Godfather 3 is a great cautionary tale. Why incest and nepotism is wrong because she had no place.
And it goes to now because you have Donald Trump and you have Ivanka Trump. Right, exactly. And you know, and they're having sex as well. So that makes sense.
Eli Wallach was great.
Eli Wallach, yeah, well, he's great. You know, and he's from who does he play? He plays
Blessed be the peacemaker.
Yeah. He's great in anything he does.
Yeah.
That was what. That's the style of actor that they should have just riddled this entire movie with. They should have done it like it should have been a throwback, not throwback, but you could have had that caliber of that Abe Vigoda type of deal where those kind of guys.
And I like the message from The Godfather 3, and that is, if you want to know where the mafia is, go to corporate America, go to the Vatican Bank.
Okay, I'll take that. Now, what we're going to do is this. We're going to wrap up soon. Farrah.
Alex, can you bring me my toothbrush?
Farrah, will you see...
I think we'll go with the Colgate today.
Alex, don't you do it.
With the peppermint.
Alex, join the resistance. Don't do it. Farrah, we talked about Godfather 3. We went off on a tangent about getting our asses wiped and toothbrushes. Will you see The Godfathers? Do they sound appealing to
Alex,
you?
is my preparation H caddy here yet? I feel a hemorrhoid coming around.
Farrah, go ahead.
I feel like it'll be a big leap for me to just see the first one to start. I can't really commit to saying I would
They're
get
very
to
long.
number 3.
They're very long.
This seems like a stretch in reality, but I'm intrigued, and hearing the conversation between you guys has made me, I'd say, Godfather curious.
Godfather curious. Okay, good. That's a good
I
sign.
even want to read the book.
Oh, the book is great.
Should I read that first?
It's all about, you know what it's about?
Family.
And a woman's vagina.
Oh, my God.
It is. There's the whole set. Did you know that?
No.
The whole second half of The Godfather
Is it about a woman's vagina?
takes place in Vegas. Remember Sonny's mistress?
The one the wedding day that he's sleeping with?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Andy Garcia's mother in The Godfather III.
Right. Yes. Okay.
She has a cavernous vagina, and she goes to Vegas and falls in love with the. I'm not making this up. She falls in love with the doctor, who takes her Grand Canyon and turns it into a nice little valley.
Oh, I did not know that. Now you spoiled the book. For
Yeah,
it.
I guess
Right.
I'll start with the movie.
Well,
That is like 50% of the book.
Wow.
I'm being serious,
I
Alex.
know it.
Alex, do not come in here with anything. If you come in here with a tube of toothpaste, I'm going to kick your ass. David, thank you so much for doing this,
Thank
man.
you.
I have to say this was, in all honesty, you guys are great.
Thank you very much.
Despite your
Despite-
attitude towards Prince Charles.
Please plug your podcast and anything else you'd like to plug. Live dates, anything, Twitter.
Just listen to my podcast on the Showbiz Network.
I can attest to this. I listened to it. It's awesome. Go check it out. Farrah, what would you like to plug?
Me and Melissa Stokowski are doing our half hours at Halyards in Brooklyn.
What day?
October 14th,
Nice.
For Comedy
7
Central?
p.m.
They're taping
for
it to
fun.
submit for Comedy
For
Central.
fun. Come out, see me do a longer set, hang, talk about movies we haven't seen,
Yeah.
and also check out our Patreon.
Check out our Patreon. Check us out on Twitter at Defend Your Movie. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/DefendYourMovie. And sign up for the Patreon and let us know what you think about movies people should defend. And, just in general, how you doing.
Yeah, we want to know.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. And thank you guys again. And we'll see you next week.